This is the story of how a surfer's simple invention became an $11 billion empire before losing 98% of its value. In 2014, GoPro was the hottest company on the planet and was frequently called the next Apple. Their CEO became the highest paid executive in America, earning more than the leaders of Disney and Starbucks combined. However, just 2 years later, their drones were falling out of the sky, their stock was in free fall, and the market had moved on. We will examine the specific decisions, the massive ego, and the brutal market shifts that turned a tech giant into a penny stock. The empire started with a roll of tape and a broken surfboard leash. In 2002, Nick Woodman was 27 years old and unemployed after failing at 2 startups and losing nearly $4 million of investors' money. Desperate for a win, he went on a 5-month surf trip to Australia and Indonesia. He wanted to capture photos of himself surfing, but waterproof cameras at the time were heavy, expensive, and required a professional photographer. Woodman strapped a cheap Kodak camera to his wrist using a homemade strap made of wetsuit material and plastic scraps. It looked terrible, yet it worked. He realized that other surfers might want one too, so he named it the Hero because it made you look like one. Woodman returned to California with an obsession. To fund his new company, he avoided venture capitalists initially and instead bought 600 belts made of seashells from Market in Bali for less than $2 each. He sold them out of his 1971 Volkswagen bus along the California coast for $60 apiece. With that cash and a loan from his mother, he launched the first GoPro in 2004. It used 35mm film rather than digital sensors, meaning you had to wind it by hand and wait days to see your developed photos. Yet, surf shops bought them. The first year, GoPro sold $350,000 worth of cameras. The hustle was paying off, but the industry shift toward digital photography was about to change everything. By 2006, GoPro went digital, and the timing was perfect. YouTube had launched just a year earlier, and people needed a way to fill this new platform with content. GoPro provided the tool, allowing skiers, surfers, and adrenaline junkies to upload insane point-of-view footage that no other camera could capture. Every video title started with GoPro, creating a free marketing machine that most companies would envy. The camera sold itself because viewers who saw a crazy video wanted to make one too. Revenue doubled every single year until 2012, when they were selling 2.3 million cameras annually. Foxconn, the company that builds iPhones, invested $200 million, valuing GoPro at over $2 billion. Woodman had transformed from a surfer into a tech mogul. June 26, 2014, marked the peak. GoPro went public on the NASDAQ, and investors reacted with enthusiasm as the stock price more than doubled in days. The company hit a valuation of nearly $11 billion. Wall Street analysts claimed GoPro was a lifestyle brand that would define a generation, rather than just a camera company. Nick Woodman's net worth shot up to nearly $4 billion, allowing him to buy a 180-foot yacht and a private jet. In a controversial move, he was awarded a pay package worth $285 million in 2014, making him the highest-paid CEO in America. The company seemed untouchable, but beneath the celebrations, the business foundation was already cracking. With billions in the bank, GoPro stopped focusing on cameras. Woodman convinced himself that GoPro was actually a media company, similar to Red Bull or Disney. They believed people would come home from work and watch hours of strangers skiing or biking on a dedicated GoPro channel. They hired high-profile executives from HBO and Hulu and spent millions producing original documentaries and shows. However, there was a fatal flaw in this logic. People loved watching a 2-minute clip of a shark attack on YouTube, but nobody wanted to sit on their couch and watch a 40-minute GoPro documentary. The media division burned through cash with zero return. They were spending money like a studio, but had the revenue model of a hardware store, creating a vanity project that distracted them from the real threat. To understand the product's failures, one must first grasp the economic trap GoPro walked into, called the durability paradox. If you sell a truly tough camera, your customer never needs to buy another one. While an iPhone user upgrades every 2 years because the battery dies or the screen cracks, a GoPro user buys a Hero 4 in 2014 and finds it still works perfectly 5 years later. The market became saturated because everyone who wanted a GoPro already had one. To keep growing at the rate Wall Street demanded, they needed to sell to regular people like parents and travelers. However, regular people didn't need a rugged, complex action camera. They had something else in their pockets that was improving every day: the smartphone. The casual market disappeared just as GoPro tried to reach it. In July 2015, GoPro released the Hero 4 Session, a tiny cube-shaped camera designed for simplicity. It should have been a hit, but the launch revealed the company's arrogance. They priced this tiny camera at $399, which was the exact same price as their more powerful flagship camera. Consumers were baffled about why they should pay the same amount for fewer features and lower video quality. Sales flatlined and panic set in. Within months, GoPro slashed the price to $299, but it still didn't sell. Finally, they dropped it to $199 and had to write down millions in unsold inventory. It was the first public sign that GoPro no longer understood its own customers. While the session failed, GoPro bet the entire company on a new frontier: drones. Nick Woodman teased the Karma drone to generate huge hype. However, while GoPro spent years in development, a Chinese company called DJI was moving much faster. DJI released the Mavic Pro just 1 week after GoPro announced Karma, and the difference was embarrassing. The Mavic was smaller, faster, had better sensors, and flew longer. GoPro was significantly outmatched. The inferior technology was not the only issue, as the Karma drone was also dangerous. In November 2016, just 16 days after the Karma drone launched, reports started flooding in. Drones were losing power mid-flight and crashing to the ground. One crashed next to a baseball field, while another narrowly missed a crowd. It was a mechanical failure in the battery latch, where the vibration of the drone caused the battery to disconnect in mid-air. GoPro had no choice but to issue a total recall of all 2,500 units sold. The timing was terrible, as it happened right before the holiday shopping season. The recall cost them $120 million instantly, and the damage to their reputation was immense. The stock price, which had once been nearly $90, crashed to single digits, effectively ending their ambitious dreams. By 2017 and 2018, the era of excess had formally ended. GoPro shut down its entertainment division entirely and fired the expensive executives they had hired from Hollywood. They laid off hundreds of employees, cutting their workforce by more than 20%. Mick Woodman, once a billionaire on paper, saw his net worth plummet and sold his yacht. He went on TV and apologized, admitting they had failed to manage the business. The company that was worth $11 billion was now fighting to stay above a $1 billion valuation. They exited the drone market completely, leaving the field entirely to DJI. The situation was humiliating, forcing them to go back to the drawing board and do the only thing they knew: make action cameras. Facing bankruptcy, GoPro changed its strategy in 2020 because they realized they couldn't survive just by selling hardware. They needed recurring revenue. So they revamped their app and pushed a subscription service offering unlimited cloud storage and camera replacement insurance. They started selling cameras directly from their website to keep the profit margins that retailers like Best Buy were taking. This proved to be a smart move. By 2023, they had over 2 million subscribers paying $50 a year. It stabilized the financial losses, but it didn't restore the company's former status. The stock remained stagnant, hovering around $3 or $4. They were a functional business again, but they were no longer a growth stock. While GoPro was fixing its internal problems, the market flooded with clones. A search for action cameras on Amazon today reveals dozens of brands, like Akaso or Wolfang, selling 4K cameras for $50 or $60. For the average person who just wants to film a single snorkeling trip, these cheap alternatives are good enough. On the high end, competitors like Insta360 developed new features faster. Insta360 introduced invisible selfie sticks and 360-degree reframing software that made editing easy. GoPro, the company that invented the category, was suddenly playing catch-up. They were being squeezed from the bottom by cheap clones and from the top by smarter technology. We cover business collapses like this every week. In December 2025, the situation looks bleak. The latest GoPro Hero 13 Black and the newer models launched this year are excellent pieces of hardware. Yet Wall Street has given up. The stock is trading under $2 a share, and the company's total market value is around $250 million. This represents a 98% destruction of wealth, falling from $11 billion to $250 million. They are still the leader in action cameras, but the action camera market itself has become a tiny niche compared to the smartphone world. The fall of GoPro teaches a brutal lesson about hardware. In software, you write the code once and sell it 1,000,000 times with zero extra cost. In hardware, every single unit costs money to build, ship, and store. If you miscalculate demand like GoPro did with the Karma drone or the Session camera, you don't just lose potential profit, you lose actual cash on warehouses full of unsold plastic. GoPro tried to escape this trap by becoming a media company, but they lacked the expertise. They tried to escape by becoming a software company, but they were too late. They are the perfect example of a company that built a legendary product but failed to build a legendary business model. Regarding the future, rumors have circulated for years that Apple or Google might buy GoPro just for the brand name, but it has not happened. In late 2025, GoPro stands alone after cutting costs to the bone. They are focusing on motorcycle helmet cameras and professional vloggers, which represents a profitable but small audience. The days of rapid growth are gone. Nick Woodman is still the CEO and still surfing, but the dream of being the next Disney is dead. GoPro is now exactly what it started as, a company that makes a cool little camera for surfers. Perhaps that is all it ever should have been. GoPro fundamentally changed how people view the world. Without them, we wouldn't have the incredible first-person views of space jumps, deep ocean dives, or extreme sports that define modern video culture. They succeeded culturally while failing as a business. Their story reminds us that a great product doesn't always guarantee a lasting empire. Sometimes you change the world, and then the world simply moves past you.